And welcome, everybody. Yes, that voice you're hearing is a guest. I have two guests in the studio. You are listening, of course, to Baron Armour-Quantrang on this Wednesday evening on Epsom Hospital Radio for 2 hours of live broadcasting. And, of course, I have, as I said, got two guests. I've got Clive Richardson.
Yep.
That's right. And Maria Ansis, is that right?
Hello.
Hello. Both from Epsom Rotary and are here to tell us all about the wonderful things that Epsom Rotary has been doing in the past and present. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to say how wonderful our club was, of course, and how we're open to new members at any time. But really, we're a group of people who meet to try and decide how we can help the local community. So we spend time thinking about what we're going to go out there and do, and then go out and do it. And we're hoping that we transform the local area and make things better for everyone here.
Fantastic. And that's exactly what this show is all about. Broadcasting to the hospital and celebrating all the wonderful things we've done within the hospital, but also within the community. And a group like Epsom Rotary are clearly one of those. And I'm really looking forward to hearing all about that, Clive. And Maria, you're a member of the Epsom Rotary as well. So how long have you been a member yourself?
About 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah. And what brought you into the organisation, would you say?
Well, I've always been caring for somebody or something, and when I stopped having that need, I decided to turn to Rotary because they support a lot of charities and not just one focused cause.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So what we'll do is we'll play a little bit of music, and then after that we're going to hear a little bit about what Epsom Rotary have been up to, past and present. Really looking forward to that. So stay tuned. But for now, we'll have a listen to The Best by Tina Turner.
Wednesday evening on Epsom Hospital Radio.
And that's right, you are listening to Epsom Hospital Radio on Wednesday evening. And as you know, I've got two great guests in the studio, which is what this show is all about, bringing the community into the hospital and celebrating all the wonderful things that are going on. So we've got Epsom Rotary, and we've got Clive Richardson and Maria Ansis. Is that right?
Yes,
Wonderful. And Clive, you gave a little bit of an introduction to Epsom Rotary beforehand, but I just wonder if you could let our listeners know some of the things you've been up to recently.
Okay, well, the way we run the Epsom Rotary is that we divide it into 3 areas. One, we look at community. Second is we look at youth. And thirdly, we look internationally. And the community side, then we do things like we bring Santa to the streets of Epsom at Christmas, where we go around knocking on people's doors, asking for money, but also bringing Father Christmas to the children.
Wonderful.
And the children get out on the streets and they're all waiting for Santa to come along. And it's wonderful these days because you have things like WhatsApp where you can announce to the street that you've just arrived, and then you get the whole street full are out there waiting for you to come along.
I didn't know you did that.
Which is a great improvement on the way we used to be, where we used to just play songs very, very loudly on Tilly the train, who we dragged behind our car. So
yeah, I do remember that. So I didn't know you're using modern social media and other sort of technology, shall we say, for yourselves.
Well, we were driven into it in some senses by COVID, because during COVID we couldn't actually walk down people's paths and collect money. So we had to think of other ways of getting to the people and letting the children see Santa Claus without touching him, so to speak.
Well, you've raised, I know you've got things you want to say, but you've raised a question which I was going to ask you is, and maybe you can do it once you've told us a bit more, but what the impact of COVID has been on your services and how you've regrouped as we've become more open.
Well, it had an impact, of course, on ourselves in the way that we met, because we had to learn pretty quickly how to use Zoom and all those other technological advances. And I was really impressed by the way the club actually went round and learnt that and actually worked having meetings at home. That was fantastic. But the other thing, of course, was that we were helping the local community at the time. We were very fortunate that we had some money stashed away, which we were able to bring to the fore very quickly. And I think the first things we started doing were helping the nurses.
Right.
Because if you remember back to those days, then the nurses were wearing masks, their faces were sore, they were standing long times, their feet were sore. So we initially we just got things like face creams and
Wonderful.
stuff together and
Really
gave
nice.
them to the nurses.
Yeah.
And then we moved on and we gave them massage chairs for the end of their long shifts. But we also thought of the patients, because we had patients in hospital who couldn't communicate with their loved ones.
Yes.
They were trapped
Yes.
in the ward. So we purchased a number of, I think, like iPads.
Yep, yep.
They weren't iPads, but they were that
Tablets,
sort
shall we
of thing.
say.
Tablets,
Yep.
yeah. And we donated them to the hospital.
Brilliant.
So that people could talk to their relations, and that was a fantastic boon for them.
Well, these gestures, I'm sure, made a huge difference. As we know, the nurses were at the forefront, almost at the sort of coalface of what was a terrible, tough time. And then, as you say, the isolation everybody felt, but particularly patients in hospital. So really thoughtful gestures, and I'm sure that made a big difference to people.
Yeah, and the thing I liked today was that we put a bench outside Epsom Hospital to sit on, and I made use of it today when I came too early for your programme. So
Yes.
I sat down there and had a good time on the bench.
Well, that's good to know. So anyone listening to this within the hospital and without, if you come to visit the hospital, so you come to the main entrance, and where would you find that bench, Clive?
It's on the left as you enter.
Brilliant. And has it got a sort of plaque or something saying
There
that
is
it's
a
yours?
plaque saying donated by Epsom Rotary.
Brilliant. So you said there just at the beginning that there's 3 elements to the work you do, if I remember rightly. Is it community, youth and international?
Yeah, so on the youth side, we try to do, we actually do better than try to do. We run competitions for the youth. So we have a young photographer competition last year. We had Youth Speaks, which enables people
That's
to
really good.
perform in public.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
do French speaking, and we usually get some French speakers to come and judge how well the students are speaking
wow.
French. And yes,
Well, those 3 things, just to break them down. So the first one you said was the youth thing.
Yes, I think the first one I said was photography.
Yeah, so the photography one. So has that gone online, or when would that be, and how would you see the work?
Okay, so what we usually do is ask the young people to submit the photographs. When we were before COVID, we got them printed on pieces of paper, and then we lined them all up and decided which was the best photograph. Under COVID rules, of course, we had to do it electronically.
Yeah.
So the competition changed a bit for that. And we also last year decided to bring in younger people. So we were asking Beavers and Brownies
brilliant.
and
Through
all
those
the youth
organisations, yeah.
organisations
Yes.
to bring in the photographs. Then what you can do with these competitions is that you can then go forward to the next stage. In fact, we didn't last year, but in the future we may well take it through to the next stage where you have a district competition and
yeah.
a national competition.
Fantastic.
Because one of the things about Rotary is that it is international in its scope.
And give us that focus, because you're about to go on to the international. How many countries in the world would have a Rotary group of one kind or another?
Pretty well every country in the world
Really?
has Rotary. There's 1.4 million people in Rotary worldwide.
Wow.
We have a seat at the United Nations, so that when we have major projects, and our biggest project to date has been End Polio Now, where we're trying to get everyone vaccinated against polio in the entire world. We've been helped with that by Bill Gates from Microsoft.
Very good.
I think he doubles what we put in.
Wow.
So whatever we put forward as money, he'll double it. And that is reducing. Well, we started, I think, 30 years ago with End Polio Now. And last year we were down to tens of people in the world having polio. So it's a dramatic transformation.
Well, that's a tremendous success.
Yeah.
Tremendous success. But one of the things you've had to face, and one of the things that came up, of course, during COVID, was the sort of anti-vaccination group. I mean, I don't suggest we go into politics or anything, but to what extent has that caused difficulties in terms of getting the impact and the progress that you're looking for?
Well, I don't think it's had much impact on polio, if we're
Good.
speaking specifically about polio. What has more impact on polio is the general tendency in war zones not to allow people in to vaccinate.
Right.
And then that becomes a political issue in the war zone areas. So we've been working really hard to combat that, and pretty well we're succeeding still. So we're very hopeful that we'll end polio completely in a few years.
Well, that's very exciting news, and that is tremendous work. I can only applaud you for that. And just to pick up on the other thing you had talked about before we go to music and have a little break, you mentioned the speaking competition for the children, which is interesting, but also the French speaking.
Indeed.
So do you want to say a little bit about more of those two?
Well, we started doing it because our French colleagues, we're twinned with a club in Chantilly in France.
Our twin town.
And we have a twin Rotary club there. And they did an English-speaking competition.
Oh, wow.
And we went across to judge it. So I was one of the judges, and that was a few years ago now. But we were so buoyed up by the whole event that we thought, well, we should have a French-speaking competition over here.
Yeah.
And one of our Rotarians, Richard Deven, and his wife, decided that they would set it up and run it, and they've done that every year since. And it's really quite a good event, and it's so impressive to hear these young people speaking French as though they were born to it, even though
wonderful.
you know that they weren't.
Well, that's amazing. So a bit of detail. So what's the age group we're talking about for the young people?
We have 3 age groups. We have the young, intermediate and older, of course. But they start around 12 and they finished about 18, that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
So
and the people who would judge it, are those from the twin town over in Chantilly, or are they French speakers over here in the UK?
We before COVID, we did have people over from France to actually judge. But since COVID, we've just used local French-speaking people who may well be teachers in schools, or just people that we know of who speak French.
Brilliant. And if anyone's interested in that, listening to this, when would be the next one?
The next one is in February next year. It will be one of them will be the younger people will be at Blenheim School.
Yes.
And the older ones will be at Epsom College.
Great.
And we have dates in the diary which are on our website.
Wonderful.
We always plug websites these days. So our website is epsomrotary.uk.
Wonderful.
We add the UK at the end because there's an Epsom in New Zealand and we don't like to get confused with them.
And there's also an Epsom in Ohio, I've noticed as well.
We haven't had confusion with them yet.
Brilliant. Well, I think we should mention your website a couple more times as we go through the evening, but we'll take a break now. And that's very, very interesting. And I'm sure people listening will be thinking, oh, there's lots I can get involved with there. But we'll carry on in a second after we listen to Green Day and The Time of Your Life.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
It's Epsom Hospital Radio.
And welcome back to Epsom Hospital Radio. We have a wonderful evening with 2 great guests from Epsom Rotary. We've got Clive Richardson and we've got Maria Ansis. That's right. Wonderful. And we've been hearing very interesting stuff about the work that Rotary Club, Rotary Epsom do. And Clive was telling us that the 3 main areas are community, youth and international. And while we were off air, Maria, you were mentioning that there's another area of work that you should let us know about as well. Which one was that? To do with music, I think.
Young musicians competition, which is run again at Epsom College and at Blenheim.
Brilliant. And for those who'd like to know more, what does Young Musicians, what sort of age group is it, and how do you run? Is it for instruments, or how would you say?
The competition happens every year, and again, it's one of these ones that builds up so that you can go to the district competition and then on to the national competition. The age group is pretty well from 12 again up to senior school. Mm-hmm. Although we have 1 or 2 last year that people that were slightly older. I can't remember the actual dates off the top of my head. But it's really quite astonishing how good these people are with their music. And one of the things that we're thinking of doing is bringing in a version of the competition where you limit it to people who are up to grade 5 or something.
Oh, really?
Because otherwise these guys who are really top-notch musicians just always win, and which is sad for the ones that are not quite at the top of the game.
Well, that almost suggests you could have 2 levels of competition,
Yeah.
sort of up to 5 and then above.
Yeah.
And that would give everyone a good chance.
Yes.
Sort of
Yeah.
stage
So
it.
we're looking into doing that.
Yeah.
But of course, at the moment, our competition takes probably 3 hours to go through.
Right.
So you would have to have a separate day for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But that's great success to have that. It's what you might call a nice problem to have almost.
It is. And it's a wonderful evening.
And you mentioned the age group there. And one of the things, again, we were talking about off air, Clive, was that one of your aims, we're going to go on to your achievements very shortly, but one of your aims is to attract younger members, keep that, that sort of pipeline of young members and all ages coming in. So what are your thoughts and plans on that?
Well, with any organisation, people get a year older every year, and if you're not careful, suddenly you're all 90 together, which isn't very good. So continual recruitment is really vital to any organisation to bring in the young blood, and to try to integrate these young people in with the things that you do, so that you can all work together on projects. We've just started a project recently which is running a garden, an allotment up by Epsom Common.
Oh,
and the aim of that was to produce some food to give to Food Bank or things like Food Bank, but also to provide a sort of restful environment for people who wanted to go and do something when they're recovering from some illness or other. They could go up to the allotment and just potter around doing some weeding, lifting a few vegetables out or something like that. But what we've discovered is that there's a lot of people who actually want to take part in that sort of activity. And we've been overwhelmed by the number of helpers that have come along to help us dig the allotment and do actual physical violence to it.
But that's really good, and I think you've hit on something there. That sort of almost therapeutic well-being process of being out. I mean, it's a lovely environment, isn't it, Epsom Common? For those who know, is that the allotment by the railways, near to the back of Rosebery School?
It's closer to a pub called the Cricketers. If you know the Cricketers,
I do know the Cricketers,
Common.
and the one that's even closer to Jolly Coopers, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you go out of the Cricketers and turn right, there's a road that runs down to, I think it's called Christchurch Road.
Yes.
If you go straight across there is a set of allotments. There's about 120 allotments in there.
Oh, really?
And it is really peaceful, apart from the school children that you can hear during the daytime.
Yes.
But it is a really peaceful place, and it's a wonderful place to recover.
That sounds really good. Very, very good thinking. And again, for those listening, the details will be on the website, which we will remind you of at various times during the call. So the other thing you wanted to talk about, I know, during this particular section, then, Clive, was some of your achievements. So which would you pick out as things you'd really want to share with us?
Well, I think the key thing which has to do with the hospitals is the way we worked during COVID, and I've spoken a little about that. And also, we helped out with the things like local care homes. So we were able to provide extra equipment for care homes.
Brilliant.
We provided fridges or almost freezers for doctors' surgeries to keep the COVID vaccine in. We also provided oxygen to some of the younger people's care homes.
Did you? Wow.
So, yeah, we did a lot on that. But we also branched out into doing other things. Because we were limited in what we could achieve,
Yes.
we decided that we would do a thing which we called Epsom Annual Showcase, which was for musicians and performers to give us recordings of their acts, and then we put it together into a 2-hour show, which we did on May the 1st in 2021. And this, I think it was 2021, it might have been 2020. Who can tell?
Time has been very strange recently, hasn't it?
Yes. But so that was a 2-hour program.
Brilliant.
And people, in the way that they do on television programs, donate money to a text number that you have on the screen.
So it was a fundraiser.
It was a fundraiser.
It was a bit like the sort of the BBC Children Need kind of format,
Yes.
is that right?
Yeah.
You'd have some entertainment, and then you'd have a sort of reminder to where you could donate and something about the good work that you were doing.
And that worked really well. And what we found was that the entertainers and performers, we had no realisation that they would be so keen to do this sort of thing. And so the following year, that is this year, we actually did it live at Epsom Playhouse.
Oh, fantastic.
And so we had a
Which
whole
month was that, sorry?
That was
April.
April, okay.
And we had a whole evening of fun, basically.
So
with
live entertainment in the
live
centre of our town.
Yeah, in the Epsom Playhouse.
Great.
And it was really brilliant evening.
And are you going to have more of those? Can you let us know for the future?
We are going to do one next year. And we're going to do a major event over at the Hook Road Arena.
Oh, yes.
We're going to have a fun day, like we used to do, which will be mainly to entertain children. So there'll probably be an arena with events happening. There'll be lots of games for children and lots of activities. So, yeah, it should be a great day.
And the fun day will be when, roughly?
September.
So that's actually coming up soon.
No, it's next year.
Next year. So
yeah.
September 2023.
Sorry, 2023.
So there's something to look forward to.
Yeah,
very
indeed.
much. Okay, and then so you've got tons of achievements, I'm sure, but what are the other ones you wanted to share with us?
Working with the veterans is quite good.
Right.
This was stimulated by Surrey County Council.
Okay.
There's a lady on Surrey County Council whose role is to stimulate things happening in the community. And she decided that it would be good to work with the veterans to give them really a place to go, have coffee and meet their friends, but also do a range of activities. So we've been working with her and with Epsom Rotary to run those events. And so they've been out on the way navigation on a boat. They've been firing arrows at archery competitions.
How exciting.
And of course, lots of these guys are old soldiers.
Yes.
So shooting things, they remember they were good at that.
Yeah.
And so they really love the arrows, bows and arrows.
Yeah, that's always good fun, isn't it?
What's actually been quite nice is since the project began, she's identified a lot.
Well, I was going to ask you, so how many veterans do we think we have in our area?
Around 50 at least.
Wow.
Now.
Yeah.
That we know of.
That we know of. So it may be about identifying or letting people know that we're here. And so either them or friends and relations can get in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, we help support the hub at the Army Reserve Centre at Ewell as well.
Right.
Which is the first Tuesday of the month. Anybody that's listening might like to come and meet some of the other like-minded people.
That's great.
Lovely.
So the first Tuesday of the month, it's the hub in Ewell. Yeah. And again, further details will be on the website, won't they?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, I mean, that's another great thing to do because obviously isolation and companionship is really important for all groups, but particularly if you've been in that sort of environment and then find yourself at home alone for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's amazing what skills these guys have. They arrive in wheelchairs, but they are making really intricate models and, Airfix type models.
Oh, yes.
Gluing bits of plastic together
That's
and
so
painting them.
Yes.
And the quality of the work that they do is astounding, given that their difficulty with movement.
It is always incredible what people can do rather than what people can't do, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you give them that opportunity.
Indeed.
So that's very good. So again, on the achievements, anything else you want to share with us?
We run a house for people from the Grange. I don't know if you've heard of the Grange. The Grange is in Bookham, and it supports a whole range of people, of young people with illnesses, mostly Down syndrome.
Right.
And we have a house in Epsom where 5 or 4 of those, I think they're mostly girls. No, there's one boy there.
Right.
And they go out to work in Epsom, and they live in this house in Epsom. So it provides a little bit of the real world for them, so that they feel they're doing a proper job and supporting the community and supporting themselves.
I think that sounds wonderful. And so I don't know, and I'm sure there may be some people listening to this who don't know much about the Grange. So anything you can tell us about that?
It's quite a big, well, to start with, it's quite a big old house,
right?
Which has been extended here, there and everywhere over the years. And again, it's a place that's transforming itself. It's got these disabled people there. And in the old days, they were just given jobs to do just to keep them quiet, I think. But in this more modern world, they are actually doing things which can be sold. So they have for instance, clever sewing machines which do embroidery, and they are embroidering things like Christmas cards, and so you can go there and you can buy these embroidered Christmas cards.
Brilliant.
And in fact, you could get a Christmas card saying Epsom Hospital Radio to send out at Christmas.
It's not a bad idea, is it?
It'll cost you £4 a card, mind you.
Still,
but
it's going to a good cause.
Could be worth it. Yes. And
so you could order up. So for example, and obviously any other group could do this within the hospital and without. We could go to the Grange and say in advance, we'd like to get some Christmas cards we'd like to send out to friends.
Absolutely.
And that. Please put whatever design on, then we can send them out. Wouldn't that be nice?
And they're really neat. And the other thing they do, which I like a lot, is they make fudge.
Ooh.
And they make about 16 different flavours of fudge.
Do they do the rum raisin one?
They do. They also do some really strange ones. They do strawberries and cream.
What?
Which is interesting fudge,
Strange.
but it's very nice.
Each to their own, I guess.
And Eton Mess.
Eton Mess?
Yes, they have...
I didn't know you could get Eton Mess fudge.
Well, you can now. It's good. The lemon one is particularly nice. They do a lovely lemon one.
That's your favourite, is it?
Yeah, it's my favourite.
Very good, very good. So listen, it's we're joking along, but I have to say we've only covered a little bit of chat, but I'm astonished by the range of things you get involved in, I have to say. And going back to I suppose before we carry on, one thing that occurs to me, you're doing so much, but obviously that's depending on finance.
Yeah.
So I know you said earlier, and I'm sure people are aware of Rotary coming around at Christmas, but is that your major fundraiser, or how else do you raise your funds?
Well, last year we raised about 3,000 from the Christmas collections. That was less than usual because we were still affected by COVID. We would expect to raise about £2,000, maybe £3,000 from doing a Rotary showcase at the Epsom Playhouse.
Yep. We
do a lot of smaller scale stuff. So Maria, sitting next to me, goes to the car boot sales over at the Hook Road Arena, and she makes some money by selling stuff that people have donated. That works well.
Very good.
We also, what else do we do? Hundreds of things.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That is the big difficulty, is remember everything.
Oh, no, I'm not asking you to remember everything.
Well, we'd be here all night.
Epsom Rotary also get involved in community help, like marshalling and events and things like that.
Oh, very good.
You know, we like to just be out there as well.
Yeah, so you'll provide people to... So would you get involved in the Derby at all, or is that separate?
Not the Derby, no. I think that's a bit big for us. I mean, we're talking about giving 4 or 5 people to marshal an event.
Yeah. So an event for example?
We would typically do Remembrance Sunday.
Oh, right, okay.
I think a few weeks ago we had a thing in the marketplace on the Friday afternoon to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee.
Of course.
And we provided marshals for that. There's going to be 5 events starting tomorrow on Fridays in Epsom Marketplace, which are to celebrate summer, really.
Wonderful.
I think they're being organised by the BID team, Business Improvement.
I have heard of them.
So they'll be for the next 5 Fridays, and we will be helping out staffing that.
Good. So if anyone's in the town centre... Oh, sorry, Maria.
Sorry. Recently we done the Race for Life.
Oh, did you?
They actually got me to carry the massive flag that sort of touched the sky. And I had to walk up and down the field. And I was absolutely terrified that I was going to drop it.
I'm not surprised.
But I managed it.
Well done you.
It was a brilliant event. I think the rapport was fantastic. That was at Epsom Downs.
Very good, very good. So going back to these 5 events, so the next 5 Fridays going, is that right?
Yeah.
And what sort of time of the day?
12 o'clock till 5 o'clock.
12 o'clock, 5. So plenty of time for people to get along.
And they will have amusements for children there, I think. And they're going to get little fairground rides and that sort of thing in.
Great. And also there's opportunity to pop along and meet one of your members.
Indeed.
And find out a bit more on a sort of one-to-one basis.
We'll be wearing camouflage uniform, bright yellow vests, with Epsom Rotary written on the back.
So you won't be easy to miss, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Brilliant. Well, listen, hold on to some of your thoughts. I'll play a little bit of music, give you a chance to catch your breath, and then we'll come back. Now, what I should say, all of the music I'm playing so far has been chosen by Maria. So, Maria, the next one is Top of the World by the Carpenters. You want to let us know why you've chosen this particular set of music?
Sometimes I wake up in the morning thinking about this song, and it just inspires me. think there are good things in the world to work
Absolutely.
with.
Lovely thought. Thank you very much.
Your love's put me at the top of the world.
I'm Debbie Martin, Ward Clark. Stay tuned to Epsom Hospital Radio.
You are back to Epsom Hospital Radio. I was just saying, time flies when we're having fun, but a very enjoyable chat with two representatives of Epsom Rotary. We've got Clive Richardson and Marie Ansis, and they've been telling us all about the wonderful, and only some of the wonderful things that Epsom Rotary do. Now, Clive, you did say that you ought to tell us a little bit about how the Rotary came to be. So do you want to give us a bit of a history lesson?
Yeah, Rotary started in Chicago in about 1905. And it was a group of 5 businessmen, and they decided that they were doing quite well themselves, but the rest of society in Chicago at that time was not doing well at all. So what they wanted to do was to change the society there a bit, to try and help their friends, relations, and just the general community. So they started a club where they would meet at one of their premises and try and decide what they were going to do, and then the next week they would move to somebody else's premises, which is why it was called the Rotary Club, because the club basically rotated around these premises. It began to take off really quickly. It grew really large by about 1915, at which stage they were getting an awful lot of money collected, and they needed to set up a thing called Rotary Foundation, which is really the repository of all their money.
Yep.
And then Rotary Foundation would give grants out to do major capital projects across America. By the time 1925 came, it had got to Britain. So our club started in 1925. We weren't the earliest by any means, but Epsom Rotary Club started in 1925. And has been going ever since. We spawned other clubs around. I think Ewell Rotary was, I think they call them daughter clubs.
Is that right?
And so that was one of our clubs, and we've had others. So that's the way it grew, and it's now huge. As I said, about 1.4 million people across the world. And we do loads of major projects. We're also trying... It seems a bit futile at the moment, really, but we do try to bring peace to the world where we can. So we do have major peace initiatives going on through the world, and lots of medical initiatives.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you mentioned the polio earlier. I mean, I'd go back to just pick up on what you were saying about on the peace. It's never a bad thing to do to try and bring peace to the world, I would say.
Indeed.
And I can only applaud you. And the more of us who do that, the more impact we'd have.
Indeed, yeah. So we'll continue doing it.
Yeah.
But at the moment, you think the world's against you a bit.
Well, it's the world ebbs and flows, and obviously, if you look into Europe, it's not a good sign. But there is peace in many places every day, and that should be applauded. Now, you also talked about your own involvement in the Rotary. So, when did you join personally, and what was it that brought you to it, and what's made you stay? I would ask.
So, I joined in 2014. A friend of mine said, I'm a member of Rotary. We're doing all of this good work around. I think you could make a significant change and improvement to the club. Would you join? And I said, well, I'm not so sure about that. So I joined, and within a year I was asked to be president, which was a bit of a shock. So in 2016 I was president of the club, and after that I had a quieter time, and then I became president again after a few years.
So you're a two-time president.
So I'm a double president.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in your 2 reigns, what would you say you feel most proud about what you did in that time?
I think what I tried to achieve in those reigns was recruitment, because we need to get young people in. We need to grow. We do an enormous amount of good in the community, but we're stretched to do what we do, and we know we want to do more. So we need a bigger team. I think one of the things that's happened in the world as well is that people react differently with each other since social media. So in the old days, you would have a meeting, you would have a formal minutes, etc., and you would write a list and you'd say, I want to do this, want to do that, etc. These days, you get a small core of people doing that, but then you can use social media and you can, like we have with the allotment, we can go out and say, hey, we're working on this allotment. Would you like to come along and help?
Yes.
So what you get is a team of loose affiliates who come in to help out on projects. They're not formal members, and maybe they never want to be president or secretary or whatever. They just want to help when they have time available.
Yep.
And so we're structuring the club more and more to make use of those sort of people, to give them the opportunity to serve and feel good about it, but yet still have some sort of control and aim and direction for the club.
And but it sounds like these new looser affiliated members or participants, if you want to put it that way, but you're also quite keen to people who get involved in the traditional way in full membership. Would that be right?
It would be nice for them to join as full members, yeah. But we have as I'm a secretary, I have a list, of course, and I have a list what I call Friends of Rotary. And every week I write out to them to say what we're doing and do they want to get involved and how do they want to get involved.
Yeah.
And that seems to work very well.
Yeah, I suppose you just got to adapt with time, haven't you?
You have, yeah. And I think the younger people these days have a much looser affiliation. When I was young, we only had one telephone, and that telephone I was not allowed to use much. Yeah. So if I wanted to meet my friends at the weekend, it had to be planned at school, really.
Yeah.
And if we didn't turn up at the weekend, that was a bad thing. These days, people phone up the night before and say, hey, do you want to go down the Jolly Farmers tomorrow? And you say yes, and you go. So there's a whole difference in the way society works. Absolutely. Which we have to live with.
Yeah, no, we all do. We all have to adapt. And we talked before about the younger sort of competition, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I think you said you used to have a sort of a group for 15 to 30-year-olds?
That's right, yes. It's called Rotaractors. And they were 18 to 30. And the idea was that they would run themselves as a mini Rotary club. So they would have their own president, they'd have their own secretary, finances, etc. And that worked well for quite a number of years. They typically did things that older people didn't really want to do, which was painting houses, picking up litter and all stuff like that. And they thrived and they did very well. But unfortunately, again, they didn't recruit enough. So they all became 30, had to stop being Rotaractors. But the good thing was they joined Rotary.
Yeah.
So we have a number of people who were in that Rotaractors group who work with us at Rotary at the moment, and they're valuable members of the club.
Great. So it worked in that sense, but it's the renewal you're really focusing on, isn't it?
Well, we're working in Epsom to say that anybody 18 onwards can join Epsom Rotary Club, and we'll make best use of them. So we're not proposing setting up a Rotaract club
just join
unless we get a group of people who want to do it.
Yep.
You can't have one person forming a club, sadly.
No, that's okay.
You've got to get a team of 5 or 10 people who say, oh yeah, that would be good, we'll have a young person's club. But at the moment we haven't got that.
But we talked potentially, and obviously this is going forward, that maybe some of those young sort of people competitions might be a recruiting ground for some of those younger people and younger members.
Yeah, it would be nice to do that, and we do our best to advertise when we do it. We tell the people about the Rotary Club, and they have opportunities to join if they want. As I was saying earlier to you privately, I think one of the issues with the education system in this country is that people disappear from their hometowns.
Indeed.
When they go to university.
Yes.
So you tend to lose touch with the people that you've carefully cultivated, which makes life a little difficult.
Yeah.
So we're looking at ways now of trying to link into the universities, because in Epsom we've got 2 universities.
We have.
Well, Epsom Newell. We've got University for the Creative Arts, and we've got Nescott.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're ever more getting closer to talking to those and getting their students involved.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's a major step forward if we manage to do that.
Yeah, agreed. So listen, let me give you a little break because we've neatly come within the last 10 minutes of the show, shall we say, of the hour. It's been a really nice, enjoyable conversation. We'll have a little break for another piece of music. So Maria, let me bring you on mic. And you were choosing music that you enjoyed to share with us. And the next one's a lovely song. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Which is, let me tell you, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong.
I would think this song inspires everybody, and it's a classic that will never, never go away.
That's absolutely true. And great choice. Thank you, Maria.
What a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
You're listening to Epsom Hospital Radio. It's a bit like listening to Radio Jackie, but more interesting, with better music and fewer mistakes, and no Neil Long. Phew!
And welcome back with a little jibe at our sister station, our local sister station, Radio Jackie. You have been listening to a wonderful evening of conversation with two special guests in the studio, Clive Richardson and also Maria Ansis from Epsom Rotary, who've been telling us all about the history of community work, I would say, at its best. So, Clive, what would you like to tell us before we wrap up and head to the news that we haven't heard so far?
Well, I think we've spoken about many things. One, I would like to plug the website again.
Please do.
Which is epsomrotary.uk, as I said, to differentiate ourselves from New Zealand. We meet regularly on the second and fourth Thursday of the month at the Haywain in Epsom.
Oh, yes.
That is a really gentle meeting in that you can come along to the meeting, you can buy yourself a pint of beer at the bar or a glass of lemonade, whatever you want. Come into the meeting at 7 o'clock. The meeting runs for about half an hour, maybe 3/4 of an hour. We stay on and chat afterwards. Some people stay on and eat afterwards. And it would be a nice way to meet people who wanted to hear about Rotary, but weren't sure about what it is and does. So you're very welcome to come to those meetings.
And just to repeat, so that is when exactly and at what time?
Okay, it is at 7 o'clock in the evening on the second Thursday and the fourth Thursday of the month. Mm-hmm. And also the fifth Thursday, if there happens to be a Thursday.
Right. On
the fifth Thursday in the month. So that would be a way of doing it. Obviously, you could also telephone me. I'm on 01372 813 679, and that'll be on the website. Mm-hmm. It's on the front page of the website. Mm-hmm. That's the Epsom Rotary telephone number. We're also on Facebook. Maria does an awful lot of work on Facebook for us, putting up pages and things. So look on Facebook for Epsom Rotary, one word. And on Twitter, I'm sure that the number of people that look at Twitter is probably fewer, but again, it's at the word to look for is the @ sign with Epsom Rotary straight after it, at Epsom Rotary.
Brilliant.
So those are the ways you can contact us. We also have more formal dinners at Cuddington Golf Club.
Oh, right.
On the first Thursday at lunchtime and the third Thursday at lunchtime. But those tend to be for more expensive meals. So we're paying about £25 for a meal for that. So there's an outlay if you do that. Whereas the Haywain, I think, is a nice introduction where you don't have to spend much money, just a glass of wine or something, and come along and chat.
Fantastic. And those are the ways in which you can get in touch and also follow the great work you're doing, Clive. But the range, just to remind people, and you've talked about it during the evening, the range of activities and levels of involvement that people can do depending on their interest. What would be the kind of things that people could do to help you out?
Okay, so Maria was mentioning just now the marshalling.
Yes.
That's the simplest thing you can do. We work with the Old Moat Garden Centre. We mow their grass for them.
Very good.
So coming along and mowing some grass is quite fun. Once on the first Saturday of the month, we're up there at 10 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, the allotment is another way people can have a gentle introduction. Mm-hmm. But we obviously need people to put themselves forward for things like our music competitions. So if you're good at music and you'd like to help out with the competitions, it would be good to hear from you. If you're good at photography, then we're always looking for judges for the Young Photographer competition. So every blooming thing that people do, really, we do. And the website is your entry, and you should find out where to come from the website.
And there's two levels, because we've talked about finance as well. So there's the activity side of things, but also the fundraising side, because obviously every organisation, you're a grant-giving organisation, needs to raise funds. And so if somebody can help out with fundraising, or if a business perhaps is listening to this,
indeed,
how could they get in touch with you?
Well, businesses can even join Rotary. We do have the opportunity for businesses to join the Rotary, and they can send people along to our meetings as part of their integration into that part of society.
Oh, really good.
So Epsom Coaches, for instance, had 3 members who came along to our meetings, and they used to cycle between them. So you'd have one member one week, another member the next week.
Very good, very good.
And that linked us into a big company in Epsom.
A big local employer. Because a lot of companies want to give their employees an opportunity to do good works in the community, and your affiliation with your group could be a good way of doing that.
We have used Barclays Bank, for instance, and another bank, which I can't remember the name of, to help out with our fund days, where they've been able to help us collect money at the entrance gates.
Yeah.
And they can get staff credits or something for that.
Yes.